Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Origins of English Words, a discursive dictionary of Indo-European roots, by Joseph Twadell Shipley. Narrated by Jonathan Todd Ross. Introduction. The most widespread of all language families is the Indo-European, of which English began as a minor branch, but now is the largest in vocabulary, in number of native speakers, and in the extent of its use around the world. From tongues in Western Asia some 4,000 years ago, the Indo-European forms moved south in Sanskrit and other Indian languages, and in other branches across Europe, and ultimately to the far ends of the Americas. Along the Mediterranean Sea they grew into Greek and Latin, and from the latter, the speech of Rome, came the Romance languages, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Romanian, French. Westward through Europe came the Celtic and Germanic branches, northward turned the Scandinavian, and eastward spread the Baltic and Slavic, including the Russian. English, which in its earliest form was Germanic, Anglo-Saxon, developed as a mingling of branches, as first the Celts, then after the Saxons, the Danes, and the Normans, took hold upon the island. The Normans were originally from Scandinavia, but during long residence in Normandy, had absorbed a dialect of French, itself an outgrowth of vulgar Latin, the speech of the soldiers and traders, and later Christian missionaries, who carried the Roman words with their goods, their weapons, and their faith. Listeners familiar with the Bible will remember the three sons of Noah, whose descendants spread through the known world. From Shem came the Semites, Arabs, and Jews. The children of Ham went into Egypt and down the African continent. The children of Japheth went into Asia Minor, where Noah's great-grandson Nimrod built the Tower of Babel. They then spread westward. Japheth's son, Lavan, for example, being linked with Ionia, Greece. With the Norman conquest of England under William, called the Conqueror, but owing much to Halley's Comet, the appearance of which was interpreted as an omen of disaster and broke King Harold's morale. Shown on the famous Bayeux Tapestry, the comet has been traced since 12 B.C., was last seen in 1910, and is scheduled to appear again in 1986, after William won the Battle of Hastings in 1066. The Norman-French dialect became the official language of the country, in church with Latin, in royal court, and in law court. For some 350 years, Anglo-Saxon and Norman French competed, and gradually merged, until Chaucer's poems and Caxton's printing press set the crown upon their fusion into English. In the shuffle and friction of these tongues, English lost many of the inflections that had burdened the earlier words. In the Romance languages, all nouns are still either masculine or feminine, in German or neuter. The adjectives vary in form, French, le, la, German, der, die, das, to fit the gender of the noun. English nouns have but three forms, nominative, possessive, and plural, although the pronouns retain the genders, he, she, it, as well as the objective case, me, him, her, and, fadingly, whom. Other languages may have 5 cases or more indicating various aspects of relationship. What English expresses with prepositions, to, for, by, from, and the like, other languages may indicate by various endings of the root word. But by their roots ye shall know them. Sir William Jones, 1745 to 1794, while a judge in Calcutta, declared, "No philologer can examine the Sanskrit, Greek, and Latin without believing them to have sprung from some common source, which perhaps no longer exists." He was right. The original speech, the primal Indo-European from which 100 languages have flowered, was unwritten, and therefore left no records. It was almost a century and a half later that philologists, by a backward coursing, by comparing the different developments in Sanskrit, Greek, and the Slavic, Celtic, Germanic, and Romance branches, and by identifying family likenesses and regular shiftings of sounds, became able to postulate, with considerable confidence, a large number of the Indo-European roots from which current words proliferated. In some instances, the primal root is but slightly changed in the modern variations. Mama, perhaps formed from the of the suckling babe, is meter in Greek, mater in Latin, mère in French, Mutter in German, which still capitalizes all its nouns, moder in Danish, mat in Russian, mother in English. It embraces all the nursing mammals. We return to this every time we call something yum-yum. Papa exemplifies one of the regular sound changes, as tribes which grew to nations branched off on their separate ways. Surviving in Latin as pater, Jupiter is Zeus pater, in Italian as Papa and the papal seat of the Pope, and in French as Père, it makes the Germanic shift from a P sound to an F sound in the German Vater, Danish Fader, and English Father. By noting such resemblances and changes, it is possible to construct a single origin of seemingly diverse words. Thus, one Indo-European root may have burgeoned not only into a word in many languages, but into a number of words in one language, as in English. On the other hand, different roots, journeying by diverse routes down the ages, may in our day appear in a single form. And one current word form may even have come to mean its own opposite, for example, cleave. A view of the complexity of language growth may be had by considering the English form con. As word, con has several meanings, from different pathways. It means against, as in arguments pro and con. In navigation, to con is to direct steering, as from the conning tower. It means to examine carefully, to commit to memory, from the early English kunnen, to know, to be able, whence also our word I can. This meaning is traced to the prolific root gen, to know. Then there is to con, to swindle. They conned him out of his sweepstakes winnings. This is a shortening of confidence game, in which the confidence man, conman, seeks to win your trust so as to cheat you. Finally, as a separate word, we use con from the Italian to mean with, especially in musical terms, con brio, con amore, and more. Note that the first con means against, the last means with. Yet these two opposites spring from the one Indo-European root, com, meaning beside. If two things are next to each other, they may be friends or opponents. Thus from com came con, contra, against, and com, together, with. A companion is one with whom you break bread. Latin panem. Country is the land lying against, next to, the town. We have far from ended the con story. As an abbreviation, con may represent a dozen words. Connection, consolidate, consoles, conclusion. In law, after a woman's name, con means wife. Latin conjunx, joined. And crim con is the legal euphemism for unlawful sexual intercourse. Nor is this all. As a prefix, con may mean against, as in contradict, control, but in the great majority of its occurrences the prefix con is a shift, for easier sounding of com together. Com remains before B, M, and P. It changes before C, D, F, G, J, N, Q, S, T, or V. Combination, compassion, but congress, constant, convention. And sometimes the prefix has no meaning save that it adds force to the root idea, as an intensive. Conceal, condemn, conflagration. There are, of course, some words beginning with con that are not involved in this pattern. On New York's Coney Island, men once went shooting conies, rabbits. In Elizabethan tales, however, coney catching does not refer to rabbits. Coney, as later gull and pigeon, was slang for an easy mark, a dupe. Another such word, of which the origin is unknown, may be hunted in a guessing game by syllables. My first is company. My second shuns company. My third summons company. And my whole puzzles company. The word is conundrum. Word ways are multiplex. English, perhaps because of its early blending, has continued to welcome into its vocabulary, sometimes with no change, words not only from other branches of Indo-European, but also from many other language families around the world. American Indian, Chinese, Arabic, Hebrew. The last two are of the Hamitic-Semitic family, named for Noah's sons Ham and Shem, but this is not merely biblical. The Egyptians' first name for their land was Ham. Various African families, Eskimo and more, have all given us good English words. English has borrowed more freely than any other tongue. The French have long objected to the assimilation of foreign terms. They speak scornfully of franglais, the acceptance of English expressions. And recently the Soviet Union has protested against the corruption of Russian by English absorptions. English, on the contrary, welcomes new words that identify new items or ideas from any land. Greek euphoria, French garage, automobile barn, Swedish ombudsman, Afrikaans apartheid, Japanese karate, empty hand, and judo, gentle way. It embraces concise or colorful expressions from any source. Spanish pronto, French détente, Russian Sputnik, Latin condominium, Latin etc., and others. This ingathering is a continuing process. New words may also be invented or formed by combining already existing words or roots. Gas, said its creator, Jan Baptist von Helmont, in 1640, was formed by analogy with the word chaos. Gillette Burgess in this century invented the word blurb because it sounds like a publisher. Kodak was coined by cameraman George Eastman, who thought that K has a commanding sound. Radar, radio detecting and ranging, and scuba, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus, are acrostics, words fashioned from the first letters of the words they represent. Chortle, by Lewis Carroll, is a fusion of chuckle and snort. Wordways are weird. Combinations are very frequent and continually fashioned. Railroad, paperback, skyscraper, then high-riser. English is likely, especially in the sciences, to combine its words from Greek or Latin roots. Thus, anthropology means the study of man. Greek logos, word, talk, reason, logic, provides many English words ending in ology, meaning the study of. Gynecology is the medical study of women. An androgyne is a man with marked characteristics of a woman. A gynander is a woman with marked characteristics of a man. We may call either of these a hermaphrodite from a Greek myth. The son of Hermes and Aphrodite, Hermaphroditos, was granted his plea to be forever joined with his beloved Salmachus. Aphrodite gives us such English words as aphrodisiac. Greek Hermes, Roman Mercury, was the patron god of both merchants and thieves. Hence such words as mercurial and the slippery metal mercury. Hermetic is from Hermes Trismegistus, thrice greatest, a name applied to the Egyptian god of astrology and magic, supposed inventor of a way of sealing vessels airtight. Also from classical myth comes the term psychology. Psyche, breath, soul, was briefly the mate of the child god, not of love, as is commonly said, but of desire, Greek Eros, Roman Cupid. These names give us material cupidity, the many erogenous zones, and erotica. Erotetic, however, means pertaining to questioning. Socrates' method of seeking truth. George Bernard Shaw was a member of the English Erotetic Society before he, with Beatrice and Sidney Webb, left it in 1884 to form the Fabian Society. This was named after a historical figure, Quintus Fabius Maximus Verrucosus, called Cunctator, the Delayer, from his hit-and-run tactics, which harassed the flanks of Hannibal's army while avoiding pitched battle, and gradually wore down his strength to the destruction of Carthage. The Fabians advocate a gradualist socialism to be attained by winning majority approval, as opposed to the communist instant imposition from before. The Greek root anth, meaning man, is also found in the name Alexander, meaning protector of men. Philander should mean lover of men. As a verb, it has a livelier sense, from stories and plays that have so named a philanderer. Mr. Anthropos, referring to the first man, Adam, is with Eve and Cain a character in Thornton Wilder's The Skin of Our Teeth. The forms from anther have become intertwined with those from another root, andra, anther, referring to the bloom of the plant world. The form anther has come unchanged into English, meaning the organ of a flower that secretes its pollen. Anth or anthem occurs at the beginning, middle, or end of numerous flower names. Polyanthus names the primrose family, but polyandrous means having more than one husband at a time. A chrysanthemum is a golden flower. Greek chrysos, gold. The word anthem by itself, however, means a hymn of praise or loyalty, such as the national anthem. From Greek antiphonos, a voice against, it was originally a song chanted alternately by two choirs. In this sense, we have taken antiphon into English. Anthology reverses the usual sense of the ending. It means not the study of flowers, but a bouquet, a garland of words. Wordways, while usually explicable, are always unpredictable. The endings of words must be watched carefully for the changes they make in the root significance. To distinguish between a gourmand and a gourmet, one must take the second portion. Love turns to hate when francophile turns to francophobe. Greek phobos means dread, but fear gives birth to hatred. There are too many phobias, but the phill words also abound. Philanthropy, love of man. Philadelphia, city of brotherly love. Philip, lover of horses. Hippopotamus, river horse. Hippodrome, course for racing horses. Philosophy, love of wisdom. The first American college fraternity, the Honor Society Phi Beta Kappa, founded in 1776, takes its name from the initials of its motto, Philosophia Biu Kubernetes. Philosophy, the pilot of life. Cybernetics is the technique of piloting of control processes. The new word cybernate means to control by computer. Wordways are wonderful, and wonderful. Wonderful is a genuine word, a valid counter in the exchange of ideas. Wonderful is a false coinage, a counterfeit. French fait, from Latin factum, made. Made against, but in imitation of a coveted or currently accepted form. The first counter, a token, springs from Latin computare, to clear, to compute. The second is from the widespread con, against. Again, we are reminded that as one root may send forth several words, so one current form may have grown from several roots. Ideas and experiences are infinite. To express them, we have 26 letters and some 45 sounds. Some words, though long, are easy to trace. An electroencephalogram is the writing, graph, of the electric movements of the brain. Greek in, kephale, head. Some words, though short, have traced a longer trail. Taxi is a shortening of taxicab. itself a cutting of taximeter cabriolet. In other words, a little, originally two-wheeled vehicle that bounds like a goat. Capri, island of capering goats, equipped with a device that measures and sets a price. But the wordways are not trivial. Latin, tri via, gossip where three roads meet. Words are flashlights turned upon our thoughts. It should be noted that the original Indo-European words were fashioned to denote material objects or specific events that impinged directly upon the senses, or immediate emotions. It may have been centuries before these terms were extended from physical to mental activity, from the concrete to the abstract, and finally, perhaps, were given figurative uses and applications. Thus, the language grew with the growth of its makers and users, from nomads to farmers, to the citizens and his civilization, from immediate concerns to general principles, from observation to speculation, across the centuries from myth and magic to religion, philosophy, and science. The process, of course, continues along with us. A number of words came into our language group after the great migrations that separated the various branches of the Indo-European family, so that while we may trace an English word to Germanic, Latin, or Greek, it may lack analogues in Celtic, say, and Sanskrit, and thus not permit the extraction of a common root. The various additions to our Indo-European heritage from later or alien sources, however, have not basically altered its nature. These have, when necessary, been transformed to fit the pattern of our speech. A bird named in Arabic, al-Qadis, al is Arabic for the famous caliph, Harun al-Rashid of the Arabian Nights, is Aaron the Upright, became Portuguese Alcatraz, which we retain as the name of an island prison, but the color of the bird, Latin alba, white, led the way to English albatross. The greater number of our English words, however, can be traced through various branches of the family to an inferred Indo-European root. This volume lists the most productive of these roots, and notes the various and frequently diverse English words into which they have been fashioned. It is the compiler's hope that such a listing and description will illuminate our living language and give impetus to its further growth, and that it will also advance the recognition that we share a vivid and boundless treasury of speech which has spread widely among our brother nations, as the second language in virtually every land where it is not the first, a language that increasingly embraces, in its trends and tendrils, all mankind. Frequent word forms and transformations. Most of the words we use in our everyday speech have come into English by way of the Germanic Anglo-Saxon line. In the great body of our vocabulary, however, especially if we count the scientific terms, by far the majority of our words have traveled through Greek or Latin, often reaching English via French. During these journeyings, certain patterns of form or transformation have recurred so frequently that instead of repeating them time after time in the discussion of individual roots, it seems wise to set them down in advance. Recognition of these patterns will make clear many of the word associations and current forms that have evolved from the faraway Indo-European roots. The most frequent silent letter is E at the end of a word. This, however, often has the effect of lengthening the preceding vowel, as in human, humane, dam, dame, them, theme, kit, kite, not, note, cut, cute. We are told that more than half of all English words end in E, S, T, or D. For D, add the past tense of verbs, and for S, the third-person singular present tense of verbs, the plural and the possessive of nouns, and the total is magnified. The editors of the American Heritage Word Frequency Book, 1971, counted over 1 million words, and found that the word the occurs almost 3 times as often as the second most frequent word, of. The first 12 most frequently used words are 1 the, 2 of, 3 and, 4 a, 5 to, 6 in, 7 is, 8 you, 9 that, 10 it, 11 he, 12 for. The first word of more than 1 syllable is 48, about, followed by 55, many, 60, other, 61, into. The first noun is 60, time, followed by 79, people, 90, water, 95, words, 116, day. Note that you is 8th, he 11th, they 19th, while I comes trailing at 24th. Apparently, we are not especially egotistical. Consonant shiftings. Many of the consonantal variations have been set into a pattern known as Grimm's Law, established in 1822 by the fairy tale man Jacob Grimm. Here it is as applied to English. Words that in early times began with one of the sounds listed here may later have changed to the next sound to the right. Gutturals: G, K, KH, H, G. Examples: genus, kin, collar, gall, host, guest. Dentals: D, T, Th, F, D. Examples: dual, 2, triple, 3, fume, dust. Labials: V, B, P, PH, F, B, V. Examples: bucket, pocket, paternal, fatherly, fragile, break. The original sound may have come to us in words along the Mediterranean route, the change via the Germanic movement. Thus the root pleu, meaning flow through Greek and Latin, gave English pluvial and plutocracy. From Germanic flug came flow, flee, flight. The K to KH sound shift appears in Spanish caballo, French cheval, English cavalry, and chivalry. The 2 foreign words also show the BV shift, caballo, cheval. Also in Germanic, the K or KH sound may become H. The root kamer, meaning vault, vaulted room, gives us camera, camera obscura, dark room, and comrade, who shared a room. But also, via Low German Heben, gives us the vaulted heaven. The sounds D, T, Th have always been confused by careless speakers. Their interchange abides in the language. German Theater and French théâtre begin with the same 2 letters as English theater, but their sound is T as opposed to our TH. In earlier English, such words as author and Catholic were spoken with a T sound, as we still say Thomas. Shakespeare punned in his title Much Ado About Nothing, pronounced noting. To carry along the plot, many things must be noted, as by eavesdropping or discerned through the blundering of Dogberry. Like other good playwrights, Shakespeare makes the title clear within the play. Don Pedro, urging Balthazar to sing, Act 2, Scene 3, says, Don Pedro, if thou wilt hold longer argument, do it in notes. Balthazar, note this before my notes, there's not a note of mine that's worth the noting. Don Pedro, why these are very crotchets that he speaks. Note, notes, forsooth, and nothing. For fear that the word crotchets will not alert the modern listener, A footnote in the 1952 G.B. Harrison edition notes, "Nothing, a pun on noting." We need not make...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?